let's go ahead and take a look at Wonseok Jung's accomplishments and that team just a little bit further. A very, very accomplished trainer coming from Korea, was the champion of the Pokemon Korea Trainers Cup, and has a ton of other accomplishments as well from the past 3 years, most notably that world's top 32 that sticks out to me a lot. But yes, there are quite a few familiar actors on Wonseok's team, but it is that Sableye, Adam, that I'm sure we're going to see quite a bit of action from.
I very much hope so. It is very unique, I think, to have both the Charizard and the Venusaur without a Sunsetter on your own side. I mean, particularly the Venusaur that really relies so heavily on that chlorophyll, not having something with the drought ability, instead going for the Zacian instead in that restricted slot over something like the Groudon, which every other player has been going for. It is only, now we've seen all 8 teams between the two for use of that restricted slot, so players very comfortable in those as ruling the roost and being able to put down the most pressure. But there is a Sunsetter over on the other side of the field. That may be impactful as this game gets played through. Rounding out the Regieleki and the Incineroar, we've seen both those Pokemon apply so much pressure in different ways. Regieleki moving fast, dealing damage. Incineroar causing disruption and lowering stats.
Absolutely, and I really wonder how that's going to fare against the team that Chinwei Ho has brought to the global exhibition. Chinwei, another very accomplished player coming from Taiwan, and was a finalist in the Asia Players Cup. That's definitely no small feat, and I really love the team that he has brought here today. You do see that classic duo of that Venusaur and that Torkoal, really fast Regieleki, and the only Landorus in the global exhibition. So I think that's gonna maybe throw a little bit of a wrench into some of these other team strategies.
It's kind of a unique team build when you look at it. Think about what a Groudon does. It sets the sun and it provides ground type attacks. Now that role has been kind of split up into 2 Pokemon here, with the Torkoal bringing the sun and the Landorus being able to, throw out something like the Earthquake. The Landorus fits in kind of stead of something like the Incineroar by providing that Intimidate as well, wrapping up with the Regieleki, which has been a staple on so many people's teams. A little bit of disruption available there with the Grimmsnarl. Does have access to Gigantamax in this one, but I'd be shocked if we see that over something like the Venusaur or even just the Dynamax coming out of Landorus. The Zacian there, just to round it out, a bit of a staple when it comes to team building, and this really should set us up for a good match.
Let's go ahead and get right into that match, shall we? See who is going to be moving forward in our winner's bracket and who will be going down to the loser's bracket to face off against Jurawiwat. Now let's see here. We've got Wonseok starting things off with the Charizard and the Incineroar, and Chinwei is going to be bringing out that Grimmsnarl and that Landorus. I love the Landorus lead here.
The Landorus lead could be really impactful here. It's managed to get an Intimidate down on the Incineroar. That'll help out a little bit. But most importantly is it just applies offensive pressure to both Pokemon that Wonseok's decided to bring here. Chinwei leading with a solid lead, saying, you know what, I can buy some time as well for this Landorus if I need to, just being able to play around and cause some problems just by throwing up screens, maybe lowering speeds as we've already seen a little bit today. So a lot going on and forcing Wonseok into a kind of tricky position.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, you're really forced into this position of, can I fake something out here with the Incineroar? Can I just, try to do what I can with the Charizard? Or do I switch out? Do I pivot? But it does look like Wonseok is going to pivot out here, taking out that Charizard and bringing in this Sableye. That is super, super interesting, and I'm sure you're getting really excited about that, Adam. But for Chinwei's side of the field, we are going to end up seeing a Gigantamax, just a Dynamax of the Landorus that's going to be coming out here. And you were already mentioning, Adam, how that could be a really big impact play coming out from Chinwei.
It's something that a lot of people have been using over different formats. Landorus has really rose back to the top when it comes to, taking the Dynamax and really running with it. And it's going to try and cause a lot of problems early on. That is definitely one of them, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, the Max Quake is going to do so much damage to Wonseok's Incineroar. And that means that it's not going to be around for too long, but good thing it does have a citrus berry in order to help regain some of that HP before it does go for a parting shot. So it will be able to lower the attack and special attack of that Landorus, the attack stat being the one that matters the most. And it looks like we're also going to see Zacian now get switched in for it.
Wonseok rotating through all 4 Pokemon, did it kind of a bit slower, not just hard switching at the beginning of the turn, but using that parting shot, trying to get that Landorus to be not as impactful as it might be. Now, my Korean is not fantastic, but I've played with a lot of Sableye, and looking at how the Sableye is targeting, this is going to be a really good move to try and deal with this Landorus. The Grimmsnarl isn't applying that much of a threat right now, but the Landorus really is. The Landorus could start by throwing out more of these Max Quakes, throwing out something like the Max Airstream if speed control is going to be a concern, and all the while it's getting those stat boosts, it's going to be doing a whole lot of damage. So Sableye wants to try and say something about that.
Wow.
The Landorus, though, giving up on its Dynamax right away. Is it that scared of the Sableye?
It might be. I would be too if I was playing against a Sableye, but it will be Regieleki taking its place, and it looks like a Thunder Wave now coming out from Chinwei's Grimmsnarl to paralyze this Zacian. But here is what I'm seeing. It's a Will-O-Wisp coming out from the Sableye. And so it is a good thing that Chinwei decided to rotate out that Landorus when they could, because that Regieleki is not going to be too bothered by that Will-O-Wisp.
Regieleki's not going to care about it, but it does mean that the switch, you know, it isn't completely free. And, I mean, only being able to land a Thunder Wave down onto that Zacian didn't stop it from firing off the Behemoth Blade and remove the Grimmsnarl. So actually, after a lot of pivoting in turn 1, getting both Pokemon exchanged out, Wonseok's able to force a couple of things to happen. Is forcing the Grimmsnarl off the field by knocking it out, but forcing that Landorus to give up on its Dynamax turns is absolutely huge. It also gave up, of course, on that special defense boost it got from turn number 1, and just the threat of this Sableye on the field could be enough to make this game very difficult for Chinwei. There's options available for the Sableye, and if this Landorus is going to respect it, I'd be curious to see if Wonseok decides to go with the play that does mean, hey, I'm able to maneuver around the speed of the Regieleki. It's going to be the second move there on the move list for Sableye, actually Quash, completely ignoring any kind of turn order and just putting something that's usually very fast, like the Regieleki, right down to the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to see how that Quash is going to function because, you know, it's not a move that you get a chance to see too often, but when you use it, it is fairly impactful. We are going to see the Regieleki protect first, though, and that's just in preparation for something that might be to come, but Wonseok is also going to match that protect with that Zacian here, and we will get a chance to see another Will-O-Wisp, though, this time into the Landorus, the original target of that Sableye, and Chinwei now has a burned Landorus. It's not going to be doing too much damage anymore.
No, the Landorus is definitely going to struggle a little bit here. It's not going to get any damage down on the Zacian. Of course, its partner Regieleki avoiding that Earthquake as well. And just look how impactful that is. I mean, Sableye, surprising in how much it can take, but it just looks so comfortable doing it after that Will-O-Wisp burn. So now the Landorus is almost out of the game. It's been a play that's been around for nearly a decade now. Just burn the Landorus with priority and then leave it alone as it struggles to land that damage. A lot of fantastic options here. Hovering the Quash, and this could mean that that Thunder Wave is completely useless when it comes to, you know, being able to slow things down, because you're just getting put last. You're not even getting slowed down. You're literally being put last in the turn by that Quash.
Definitely something that Chinwei should be cognizant of. This is a closed team sheet, though, so who knows if it's actually there, but there's a pretty good chance if you played against a bunch of Sableye that Quash is going to be one of the moves in a Sableye's move set. But here it comes. The Quash will be onto the Regieleki on Chinwei's side, and that means that Regieleki is not going to be able to move first. In fact, it's going to have to take this Earthquake damage from its partner Landorus here. But, ooh, it looks like that Zacian does get paralyzed.
Yeah, the Zacian unable to move and finish off that turn strong. I mean, the Sableye did the right thing by putting it last in the turn. But actually, that burn from Will-O-Wisp early on could be causing some problems. I think maybe the damage was expecting to go down from something like the Regieleki. Then you'd follow it up with the Earthquake and you'd be like, oh, well, it's done its job there anyway. But it's still a really good position. I think Sableye did exactly what it needed to do. 10 out of 10 on the Sableye. You burn the Landorus and you slow down the Regieleki a little bit. That's exactly what it needs to do, and it can come back in games 2 and potentially 3 and do that again. Now this Landorus is really, really limited. You know, this Charizard can come in. The Regieleki's only got one more turn on the board, which you could work through with something like a Protect as well. And you still have access to your Dynamax or even Gigantamax on Wonseok's side of the field. So definitely able to play this one out. I think the Incineroar coming in before the Charizard, playing it slow, saying, you know what, let me get through this next turn real quick. Let me make sure that that Regieleki is either, you know, switched out and then you just have to either protect a following turn, or, you know, I'm just going to keep things rolling here. So like this, like saving the Charizard for the back, especially because the two things that threaten it are both in danger of going down very easily or just not doing enough damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to be doing nearly as much damage with your Landorus if it is burned, so that does keep the Charizard pretty safe and healthy. The only problem that I'm seeing here is that there isn't a great way for that Charizard to be able to make use of what I'm going to assume is a solar power ability right now. There's no weather on the field. There's no real way to change it right now on Wonseok's side, but if you can get rid of the big threats like this Regieleki and the Landorus, you might not even need that extra boost of damage. We are going to see Chinwei go ahead and take out the Regieleki, and here comes Zacian. Zacian will be here on the field, and that does make things maybe a little bit scary when you think about how that Behemoth Blade is going to do twice as much damage to a Dynamax or a Gigantamax target, but that Rock Slide's not doing anything.
No, the Rock Slide after the burn, just not able to get there. And the Paralysis not taking effect this turn. Wonseok setting up a substitute, making this endgame surprisingly easy, I think, for Wonseok. You know, landing that parting shot as well. Really, really nice to get that down on the Zacian, deal with the Intrepid Sword right away. And now there's a Regieleki on the field. Guess what? Charizard's able to come in, and it's not going to have the solar power, but it's still going to be feeling pretty good about its chances in this game, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a great parting shot. Whether or not that Regieleki stayed in or that Zacian switched in, because now that Intrepid Sword buff to that +1 attack is not going to be there anymore for Chinwei to be able to deal more damage with that Zacian. But Zacian is still on the field, so you do have to be a little bit worried about that Behemoth Blade coming out there. But I think the Charizard is going to be in a pretty prime position right now, especially knowing that Wonseok's Zacian is under that substitute.
The fact that his Wonseok Zacian also just has a free turn, really, assuming it can land the attack, you know, is really, really helpful for it. Being able to throw out something like just a Behemoth Blade to deal with it, really important. And the big change as well here, Wonseok still has access to, of course, the Gigantamax. That was something we didn't really get to see out of Chinwei's side. You know, he gave it up on the Landorus really early, was that scared of the Sableye. And this Charizard, you know, using that increased health pool, could just run away with the game. Chinwei definitely doing his best, though, to bring himself back into the game.
Yeah, you're going to see a substitute there, but the targeting from Wonseok is going to be onto the Landorus. And so Landorus is going to take a hefty amount of damage. Will be able to fire back with a Rock Slide, but, you know, that's not going to do too much here. And let's go ahead and see what this Zacian for Wonseok is going to be able to do here. It is Behemoth Blade. Where does it target? It looks like it's going to be into the Landorus as well, and so that Landorus going down.
Now, that Landorus has had really limited impact in the game as well. The burn as soon as it arrived on the field, giving up on its Dynamax turns and getting caught with Intimidates as well. It's been a really rough old time for Landorus, and with the only player bringing it in the tournament being Chinwei, needs to really put a better showing on it. This Regieleki getting caught with that burn actually makes this turn real easy for Wonseok, just saying, you know what, I'm just going to be able to put up a Protector, in this case a Max Guard, and yeah, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, really. You're going to be stuck waiting for me and just causing those problems as the burn gets you.
Yeah, I do really like that Max Guard there because it takes away a bunch of pressure that Chinwei is really hoping to create during this turn, and just seeing a double protect here, I think that's one of the reasons why I love Substitute as a move on a Zacian set, is because you can just cycle through creating those substitutes and then using Protect when necessary to keep that substitute healthy and protect you. Here comes that G-Max Wildfire damage. Regieleki didn't have a whole lot of HP coming in, and it doesn't have any HP now getting knocked out. And that Zacian for Chinwei is getting lower and lower with all of this residual damage.
Yep, the residual damage is going to start wearing it down, so as soon as that substitute gets felled, it's so easy for Wonseok to just tidy it up with any attack really coming out from his own Zacian or even the Charizard, but the Charizard probably going to be wrapping it up a little bit early. The Zacian popping out from behind its substitute, trying to get the Behemoth Blade down first, make sure it can really deal as much damage, but the Charizard's so healthy. That's just nowhere near. The loss of that Landorus, I think, has cost so dearly as there's no real answer to this Charizard.
No, and the G-Max Wildfire is going to move first, so that's definitely going to be enough damage to pop that Zacian substitute. And now, Wonseok's Zacian can just go in for the final attack here, going in with a Behemoth Blade of its own. And that should about seal up this game number 1. Wonseok taking this first game.
A very comfortable play, and the Sableye, star of the show. It's absolutely done its job. It's caused so many problems that I don't think Chinwei really had an answer to. There was more tricks up its sleeve as well, and something we talked about, of course, looking at, the team doesn't have a Sunsetter. Well, it does. And I'd love to see the Sableye get even more done by setting up the Sunny Day as well. So that's an option that I'd like to see in game number 2. But focusing back on game number 1, I think the giving up of your Dynamax that early is so costly, and it's always going to be so hard to fight back from a situation like that. Chinwei was scared of the Sableye, respected the Sableye, but still ended up in that position anyway.
Yeah, that's such a hard position to be in, though, if you're Chinwei. Do you deal with the threat of the Will-O-Wisp, maybe hope that it just misses, and just try to go for that damage? Or do you protect Landorus knowing that it's going to be a really big deal for damage output and just putting some pressure onto Wonseok's team that you have to preserve it for later? I think that's a really big toss-up that Chinwei was going to have to make a decision on. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for this game number 1. But let's see if things change around in game number 2 of this best of 3 series. This is our final winners round 1 match, and Chinwei definitely has the opportunity to make a comeback here. So let's go ahead and see what happens. I would love to see that Sableye in action once again, because Wonseok does have a lot of options in having that Sunny Day on the Sableye and just making sure that that Charizard is even more set up. Like, it was doing a lot of damage even without the sun, but think about that solar power coming into effect too.
Well, there was no Sunset. I mean, there was the ability to Sunny Day, but there was no Torkoal either. The Torkoal Venusaur, that ever-present, ever-loved combination, was left at home by Chinwei, left on the bench, wasn't wanted in this game, and so really, I think, needed something maybe just a little more offensive, and that pairing might have been able to do it. But there's certainly adaptations all over the board here as trainers mixing up their leads significantly.
I think if you're Chinwei, you also don't necessarily want to bring the Torkoal in order to make it easier for Wonseok to get the Charizard and the Venusaur online. With Sunny Day on Sableye, you do require 1 turn in order to actually get the sun set up, whereas Torkoal coming in with its Drought ability sets up the sun immediately, so that's something that Wonseok could take advantage of right away. So I kind of expect and understand that Chinwei might not be more comfortable bringing Torkoal into this matchup, and especially just because it's a really slow Pokemon.
It is, and there's going to be a real tough time to work around it. But speaking of slow, Chinwei taking his time in this turn.
Just going to see a double protect come out from Chinwei's Pokemon, and that means that, Wonseok, whatever he was trying to set up in this first turn is not going to matter. But at least Chinwei gets a little bit of information about how Wonseok might be trying to approach this game number 2.
Well, that turn had a really interesting option to really kind of slow the game down. Both trainers actually able to just, both Pokemon on Wonseok's side of the field, able to throw out a Fake Out and just get free damage down and make the turn completely null and void for Chinwei with damage. So the protects do mean that you're safe from damage and you're not taking, just extra hits, which, could add up or be the deciding factor when it comes to racking up residual damage between turns. So just playing it safe, playing it smart around there. I really like that, I think, from Chinwei. It does cause a bit of a problem coming into turn 2, though, as it means neither real Pokemon have a guaranteed protect available to them and it's up to Wonseok to try and take advantage of that, or Chinwei to wiggle his way out of the situation. And with the switch, that's exactly what he's going to try and do.
Here comes Grimmsnarl, and we saw how impactful Grimmsnarl could be, just being able to set up those screens and make sure that not too much damage was coming their way. But Regieleki is going to dish out just a little bit of damage on their own. We are going to see a parting shot come out from Wonseok's Incineroar, and so that will drop the special attack of that Regieleki before that Incineroar pivots out in favor of, looks like, the Zacian for Wonseok.
Yeah, saving that Charizard. Once again, that was a really clean, really tidy end game with the Charizard, I think. So keeping that around, being able to save that for later, knowing where the threats are on the board, if they're there, really, really wise. And just that Zacian, you know, seeing that Grimmsnarl wants to do exactly what it did to it in game number 1 as well. Just catch it with a Behemoth Blade and knock it right out. So really nicely done. Looks, of course, like the Sableye is going to have to be a little more defensive here. Took a lot of damage from that Regieleki. It's something that you really need to use Sableye sparingly. Only gets a couple turns usually. It's not as bulky as some of the other supportive Pokemon, or not quite as impactful over a long number of turns. So saving it for later, very, very wise here, I think.
Yeah, I think that Sableye can come in handy later on in the game, but we are going to see a Thunder Wave from Chinwei once again onto the Zacian. So Wonseok's Zacian is paralyzed. We'll see if it will be able to move. Thunderbolt again from the Regieleki will find its mark into the Incineroar, but Behemoth Blade is out to strike and will be able to strike down that Grimmsnarl.
That's really been the only answer to this Zacian so far, is just saying, you know what, I hope you don't get to move after I Thunder Wave you, but both times it's happened now, the Grimmsnarl's just been felled immediately, so maybe could say that there's been a bit of a struggle to deal with that. Of course, you know, it does mean that the Zacian is going to be slower over on Wonseok's side. The field means his own Zacian on Chinwei's side, confident it can move first and you're not going to have to worry about any speed ties. So definitely got the faster board on Chinwei's side, but needs to capitalize and needs to do something with it pretty quickly, because otherwise, you know, this Sableye could come back in and start causing problems again. Completely change that up with something like the Quash. You know, it's all well and good having the fastest board available, but when you're getting Quashed back into last place, you're just not able to play the game. And something like Quash alongside the Charizard, I think it's a really strong back pair for Wonseok to have. I do like that Chinwei just has the more offensive board position though. No stat drops, no status effects, just able to start throwing down damage.
Yeah, the Intimidate from the Incineroar did come out before we got a chance to see that Zacian from Chinwei's side move in. But Regieleki playing it safe here. We will see a double protect from Regieleki and Zacian, and most likely just to make sure that Wonseok can't get this fake out off.
Chinwei is so respectful of the fake out. That's, you know, a couple times now he's made sure the fake out doesn't come through. And half of this Incineroar's job has been taken away by those protects. But once again, it causes that conundrum in turn 2, or the following turn. In this case, I believe it's turn 4. You know, you don't have guaranteed protects available. So you're going to have to play around that, and now you've got one less Pokemon to do that with the Grimmsnarl already being taken out by the Behemoth Blade. So it is a safe turn for that turn. I think you've got to be thinking a few steps ahead. Wonseok not punishing it though, not trying to go with something like the Substitute. That could have been disastrous. I'm sure Chinwei was quite happy not to see that.
We're going to see a Protect though, which is going to keep that Zacian pretty safe here. But Substitute for Chinwei means that that Zacian is going to be behind a little bit of a shield here. Still does get Parting Shot, so Wonseok's Incineroar will be able to rotate out in favor of something else that Wonseok is going to consider using to be able to clean up this game. Really curious, though, what he's going to choose, because, you know, Sableye, yes, it could be brought in order to get Quash onto Chinwei's Pokemon, but also set up the Sunny Day. I do like the Charizard pick, though, because I think that Wonseok really needs to go for some damage.
Wonseok definitely needs to put down some damage and try and push this game along. And the switch out, no, the Sableye is not going to be safe enough. It would just get caught and knocked out pretty easily from where it is. So a whole lot going on there. And being able to land, of course, that Parting Shot onto the Zacian through the Substitute. Really good knowledge of the mechanics from Wonseok. I love that the constant Parting Shots are going to slow things down. And it does mean that Wonseok's Pokemon are still relatively healthy outside of that Sableye. Sableye, of course. I mean, I think the Sableye a little bit low, but the offensive threats are nice and healthy as well.
It's time to get some damage out there. Let's go ahead and see that Charizard Gigantamax. And that means that Wonseok is ready to deal some pretty big damage. Yes, we do see Chinwei Zacian still sitting pretty behind that substitute, but I think it's gonna take, this Charizard's gonna be able to have to take a lot of damage first, I think.
Yeah, the Charizard probably going to take a little bit less, though. Don't forget, I mean, there's been Intimidates rolling around. There's been parting shots as well. But it's not the target. It's the opposing Zacian here. Maybe Chinwei just confident that the Regieleki will be able to deal with this. But it doesn't look like it's going to be given much of a chance.
No, it does not. Regieleki is able to hang on with its Focus Sash, though. But, wow. I'm super shocked there. I mean, I think that's really great targeting coming out from Chinwei as well as Wonseok, just kind of recognizing, you know, playing those mind games a little bit of where are you targeting, what should I target then instead. But Wonseok Zacian is going to be able to clean up Chinwei's Regieleki, and so that is starting to put on the pressure just a little bit more.
I think this matchup's quite hard for Chinwei in a way that the Zacian's relying on the substitute quite a lot here, and that's going to be one of its big things, but the residual damage of G-Max Wildfire doesn't care about the substitute, and the parting shot being a sound-based move doesn't care about the substitute. So even though it's up and preventing it from taking damage, what's kind of cool is that Wonseok's just able to handle this pretty comfortably through the substitute. And yes, you know, it managed to get some damage down in return, a little bit over half, but still wasn't quite enough to be threatening a knockout. And that parting shot going through substitute so important here. That Landorus has shown up as the last Pokemon on Chinwei's side of the field, and we've seen what on Wonseok's team can answer the Landorus, and we know it's still in the back. So now what you have to really do is maybe apply a little bit of pressure to it. Don't disrespect it. And I like this switch that we've been looking at from Wonseok on his menus, bringing in the Intimidate to slow it down for now, but then say, I'll slow you down even more in a little bit when the Sableye comes back.
Yeah, especially because Chinwei is down to their final 2 Pokemon. There's no switching out from these Intimidates that could continue to cycle in and out. And then also the threat of the Will-O-Wisp on the Sableye to just continuously stunt that damage output from both of those physical Pokemon for Chinwei. We are going to see the Dynamax, though, for the Landorus, and so while he's able to, Chinwei is going to need to get out this damage. We're going to see Zacian move first here, and it is going to be a Behemoth Blade. Let's see how this goes. It is right into the Incineroar. It's not enough to take it out.
It takes that so comfortably as well. You know, the Intimidate putting in work there does bring it down into range to activate the Berry as well, so getting a little bit of recovery and looking pretty fine at the end of that turn overall. That said, though, the Charizard just going for it, saying enough is enough with this substitute. I am going to get rid of it, even though I've been able to play around it quite successfully, and maybe opening up for something in the backside of this turn. Landorus, though, just trying to get ahead of things with the speed, but that's not going to be enough damage at all. This Charizard's still going to be very comfortable damage-wise.
Yeah, I think the speed can be pretty important here, but look at this G-Max Wildfire chip damage that's coming through. You know, Zacian is still sitting in a very uncomfortable position. You probably don't even want to go for another substitute here. It's just really difficult call to see kind of how Chinwei is going to navigate some of these final moments of this game.
I think if you go for another substitute here, you're just in range to be caught by the residual damage from G-Max Wildfire, and you're going to be on the field for the remaining turns of it. There's no way around it. You are one of the last 2 Pokemon. The Landorus getting some speed back, though, could be helpful. Maybe trying to sneak in a Rock Fall. Now the Charizard's been softened up a little bit by that Max Airstream, just making sure that you're able to put down all of the damage you need. So everything riding on this Landorus, and the Landorus is going to be pretty happy that it hasn't seen this Sableye yet.
Max Guard for Wonseok's Gigantamax Charizard, though, as we do see a fake out into the Zacian, so it's not going to be able to do anything for this turn, and Max Guard catching all of that damage here as we do see more of that residual chip come through.
yeah, being able to make sure that none of the damage from Landorus goes down. Something like the max Rockfall would have definitely been hurting. You know, something like the max Airstream would have been causing problems as well. So a pretty decent turn there for Wonseok, just being able to play it slow, play it steady, but does need to try and hold on to the Charizard, I think, particularly through this last turn of the Dynamax over on the Landorus, because that's when it's going to be able to try and capitalize, try and punish a little bit as well. Of course, the best thing going for this Landorus right now is its speed boost, which gives Sableye another option later in the game to not only Will-O-Wisp it, but also quash it. So a lot going on for the Sableye to try and finish up, but it doesn't look like there's any protects here. Looks like Wonseok might just want to get to his back two, but the Incineroar's still going to be there. Can't do anything about that right now.
No, we can also see the Max Knuckle coming through. That is going to be enough to take out that Pokemon, but more importantly, give that Landorus and that Zacian that attack boost that Incineroar's Intimidate took away.
Oh, the Blast Burn following up though from Charizard. I think Chinwei not expecting to get anything done from the Charizard. I think he was expecting a Charizard Protect right there and said, you know what, that's absolutely fine. You can, you know, protect that. I'll deal with the Incineroar. But the Charizard weaving in a Blast Burn there, very, very nice for Wonseok, and finally gets to show the Sableye into the Landorus. Now the Landorus will be eligible to get burned right here, could be quashed as well. So as we head into the menu, I think the Sableye just gets to the side. Going to save that one more turn. Does need to buy that turn, actually, to let Charizard deal with itself a little bit and try and set up that ball position. So a quick, easy turn to resolve this one. Charizard recovering from Blast Burn. The turn bought beautifully with Fake Out. Lovely game planning from Wonseok, and this Landorus has got a whole lot of work to do in the next few turns.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty tough to do if you're going to get burned by the Will-O-Wisp. So Chinwei's Landorus now in this similar position to what it was in that game number 1. Damage output going to be pretty reduced here. Yikes, that was still a lot of damage though, but another Blast Burn's gonna come through. Not gonna do enough to be able to deal with the Landorus, but that burn brings it pretty close.
Yeah, the burn really does get it there, and you know, at the end of the day, it's going to get worn down over the next few turns anyway. Sableye not going to give itself up. It's done its job. It wants to save itself for the kind of end, just in case it needs to come in and weave in another Fake Out. The Charizard has to recover, though, and this, you know, yes, the Landorus is fighting back, but the Zacian's just not caring about those Rock Slides at all.
No, and I think that was actually a really beautiful pivot there for Wonseok, because now you can bring in the Sableye again, and Fake Out's just gonna finish the job. And if it doesn't, then you still have the Zacian there that you still bought yourself some time with. Maybe it doesn't get paralyzed, but what beautiful positioning and gameplay coming out from both of these trainers. Wonseok, though, just taking the edge and taking this series in a 2-0.
I love that it's the Sableye that got the knockout, the most important Pokemon on Wonseok's team throughout both games of that set.